ask me. I mean, God, I started in '61, a year after Kutza started. Kutza started in 1960. I started in '61.
Okay, yeah, as I was actually going to say, I figured we would just start at the beginning of the radio career and then just kind of go from there.
Okay, let me start. I don't want this to be all about me, though. I don't. I want to stick to WISL. Can I talk a little bit though about myself and how I started there and what my connection was to WISL? Can I do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start there then.
Okay, let me put it this way, and what my connection there was. All right, in high school, I was involved in forensic, and I was lucky enough. That was public speaking, and that's how I excelled because of a nun who took me under her wing. I went to Mount Carmel Catholic High School, and I was pretty successful. I won the diocese championship in '59, and I won a trophy and went to Washington to the Nationals. And that's about the only good thing I did in high school. I wasn't afraid to get up in front of an audience and speak. And Jim Riley had Riley's Roost on WISL, and he had this wonderful voice. And he was a friend of my pop, and he was from Centralia. And when I graduated in '60, I used to thumb a ride. I used to stand on the viaduct in Mount Carmel. I didn't drive, and thumb a ride to WISL. And they let me in, and they let me in the control room, and I would sit and listen and watch Jim Riley. I shook his hand and told him who I was. He said, "Bertie Flynn, I know your dad." And my pop graduated from Centralia High School and went on to play semi-pro basketball, and him and Jim were the best of friends, and I had my foot in the door, and somebody quit. One of the part-timers quit at WISL, and when I graduated in 1960 from high school, they gave me an audition. And one of the part-timers quit, and boom, wouldn't you know it, I became a part-time announcer. And I became, I had the 2:30 to 11 o'clock shift on Sunday afternoon. And Joey Reynolds, who was a national known DJ on WKBW in Buffalo, New York, had a show. And Dick Biondi, another great announcer, they would do a satire show. And I kind of did a satire show similar to them. I played the bongos and wished somebody a happy birthday on that show. Happy birthday to you, and I'd hit my bongos.
So you did that live in this? You did that live in the studio?
I did that. Yeah, I did that live on the studio.
That's pretty cool.
And started a club called the Baby Orangutan Club, and had these Baby Orangutan membership cards printed out, and it took off. So I had that afternoon show for 3.5 years. And WISL was a great learning. It was a great learning radio station. We had something like 8 part-timers and 3 full-timers. And Bob Ziegler had the morning shift. Tom Kutza had the night shift. And try to think of who had the afternoon shift. I can't quite recall. But the afternoon shift sort of had... It was kind of a roller coaster where it was maybe a full-timer for a year and then somebody else would take their place. And then Tom Kutza suddenly became the afternoon announcer, and then he became the morning announcer. And 3.5 years later, I became the night announcer, 6 till midnight.
So was morning's usually considered like that's the ticket, that's where you want to be? Is it in the morning slot?
Yeah. The morning slot is morning drive. You know, you get up super early. We were 6 a.m. till midnight. That was our license requirement. So we signed off at midnight. But yeah, it was morning drive was the prime slot, and then afternoon drive. From 4 till 6 was the prime slot. Like I said, 6 till midnight. I love that because I had the whole day to myself, and I had that night shift for 20 years, from 65 till 85. But it was a great learning opportunity. I trained 23 kids, 23 young men and women who became part-timers. There was a young man from Sunbury. His name was Jay Stoller, and he was part-time, and he worked at WISL for a couple of years, and then he went on to WKOK in Sunbury. And he went to WCSL in Chicago, and he went by the radio name, Jay Stoller, Jerry Morgan, and his nickname was the Midnight Mover. And that was one of the top stations in the country. And let me tell you a quick story. The reason why you can get the big 50,000 watt stations at night, now you can't get them during the day because the radio signals act differently. But like when we would listen to KB, which is WKBW, the Buffalo station. Now this is back in the 60s. They were one of the top stations. As soon as it would get dark, now this is a little technical, the heaviside layer, which is something in the stratosphere, whatever, the ionosphere, whatever, the heaviside layer comes in. And this is a layer where the radio waves, instead of, when they come out of the transmitter and go to the tower and go up in the air, they hit the heaviside layer, and they bounce down, hit the earth, go back up to the heaviside layer, down to the earth. They hit, say, Shamokin, Mount Carmel, Elysburg, and you can pick up those radio waves. Where during the day, the tower, the signal goes up, and it keeps going. It hits nothing. That's why you can't hear that radio station.
That's interesting because I was going to actually interject before and say, I know when I used to work at WKOK, they power down at like 4:45. So I was thinking maybe you were going to say all the radio stations kind of power down, and then if you have a high wattage station, you're going to get through more too. I thought that would be, but that's pretty crazy. So just literally because it's nighttime, are you saying the waves travel? They come back down, so it's clearer, so they're easier to pick up, right?
Yes, exactly. Now, WISL, we had to do the same thing. We were 1,000 watts. At different months, we would have to power down to a directional pattern, which would go basically due north, because there was another 1480 in Philadelphia, WDAS, I think it was, and another one in Canton, Ohio, where if we would still transmit in a complete circle, our radio waves, 1480, would hit the heaviside layer and bounce to Philadelphia and Canton, Ohio, and interfere with that 1480 signal from their radio station. So we had to do a directional pattern, it was called, at sunset. And it would change every month. We would actually do that from our control room. We would do that. We had to by law. People would think that we went off the air, but we didn't. We would have to cut our power. And it was a terrible thing because people in Mount Carmel sometimes couldn't pick us up. I mean, it really affected our listenership. We would get postcards from Nova Scotia and places way, thousands of miles. There were clubs that they would sit with all kinds of, fancy radios. They wear headphones to try and track radio stations like WISL to hear signals. And we get postcards, and it would say, "We heard this particular song, and and your announcer saying WISL at 10:20 p.m. On this date, and you verify this. Please send us the response. Yeah, But anyway, it was very interesting. But my tenure at WISL, I enjoyed so much. I mean, WISL was such a wonderful little AM station. It was a big station. Our Studio A was a big studio with a baby grand piano, big microphones all over the place. The old mics that you see in the old motion pictures, with the stars, the old RCA 44s and boom mics, the old RCA 77. I mean, it was so grand. You'd walk in there, you'd be in awe. In the control room with this big old RCA control board, a control console, we called it the board. And then there was a real scary looking piece of equipment that looked like a telephone operator switchboard with all these holes in it and these patch cords. And you had to learn how to operate the board, and you'd have to learn maybe 6 or 7 patch cords that you have to plug in to do different things at certain times. But it wasn't as difficult as it seemed. You had to write down a couple of things to learn it. But once you did, you felt importance. It was really nice. The WISL was such a great radio station. We met some important people. At one time, the 1910 Fruit Gum Company was playing at Kahn's Garden Club. It was a bar in Shamokin, and they came up. It was a PR thing to just let the people know that they were playing at Kahn's. And they came up, and the drummer had his drumsticks, and I went into the Studio A with the baby grand piano, and their keyboard player sat at the piano. They did a couple of songs. I brought the boom mic over, and they sang, and the drummer beat his drumsticks on the top of the piano, and they came up. But we had a lot of celebrities come up to the radio station during my tenure. One time I had Tom Kussa had Frankie Lane on the telephone, but we had some important people up there. I know what I work for. I got to tell you, see, I moved to Spy 95 in 85, and I mean, we met Jefferson Starship.
Ooh, that's a big name drop right there for me. I was just gonna say, you can't see, but I was just gonna say I have the red octopus one. I have that on vinyl. I was gonna bring that up and put that. I was just gonna say I recently acquired one of Jefferson Starships albums on vinyl.
Do you mind if I mention Spy 95?
Yeah,
because they were part of WISL at one time. See, WISL bought Spy 95 at one time.
Yeah,
and I went to Spy 95, and then we were consolidated sometimes with the Bloomsburg Fair, and promotions. We did a lot of promotions. I mean, we actually did live remotes from. See, I'm in Florida right now. With Disney World, and Rick Resigliano did a live remote for a couple of days in Disney World. So we did a lot of promotions, but I was backstage with Fabian, Bobby Rydell, and Chubby Checker.
Oh wow!
And I
know the last two. I can't say I know the first one. But I know the last two, and of course Chubby Checker. Everybody knows Chubby Checker.
Oh yeah, but Bobby Rydell, he had a ton of hits, and he was so personable. Chubby Checker, oh my God, was he? He was. I mean, he hasn't had a hit in about 30 years, but oh my God, was he? He was so what's the word?
Charismatic.
Well, I had an index card. And it said, "Hi, I'm Dash. Here are my hits on WMIM WMIM was part of the group of stations on WMIM and blah 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 blah. And he changed it. He was just so stuck up. Stuck up is a good word. He thought he really was something. I mean, you couldn't stand him.
Yeah. Okay. So different than what I was saying. So he was full of himself. That's the word.
Exactly. And then Fabian Forte. Fabian hasn't had a hit in 40 years. And I mean, he's still a good-looking guy. Are you familiar with Fabian?
The name sounds familiar, but I don't know any songs or anything, specific.
Okay. Fabian had the card, and he's there. He just didn't want to be bothered. I mean, he didn't want to be bothered at all. You could see it, and I thought, come on, guy, you're in show business, suck it up, And he said, hi, I'm Fabian,
Yeah.
What a man, come on, all right. And one more. I'll tell you one more story.
Oh no! All the celebrity stories are great. I mean, I've met a few celebrities from around this, and I've had great interactions where they appreciate every fan, and I've had people where you're like, they walk right past me and they don't even acknowledge my existence, and it's just, you have to be. Yeah. You're in show business. You do have to have a little bit of. There has to be a little bit of. I mean, the fans make you, so you have to give them a little bit. You have to be a person.
Well, sure. One time, we were a Phillies affiliate. We were a Philadelphia Phillies affiliate, and when we have a night game, naturally they were, mostly night games. So all I did during a Phillies game is do a station break every half hour. So there I am sitting with my feet propped up, eating a bonbon. There was nothing else to do. So, every half hour I just say WISL Shamokin. And seeing that we were a Phillies affiliate, we would go to Philadelphia and we'd go to their dinner. And we'd eat all the players. Well, naturally, I'd have my cassette player with me. A cassette player, imagine. A cassette player with me. And I'd have that same index card, which would say, hi, I'm Dash. Hear Phillies baseball on WISL Shamokin. And I had Greg Lozinski with me. And it said what I just said. And I said, Greg, would you mind showing? Are you familiar with Greg Lozinski?
The name sounds familiar. Should I look him up, or you can just tell me who it is? Lozinski sounds like a Cole region name.
I told you I could go on and on with these stories.
Yeah, that's good though. That's what I'm saying. I want you to. You tell whatever story you want. I'm here to listen. But go ahead with the Lozinski. Go ahead.
Well, he is a great home run hitter. I mean, he could hit the ball out of the park without any trouble. And God bless him. He was huge. And I said, Greg, could you do a station break? And he said, sure. And I handed him the card, and he said, hi, this is... And I said, Greg, your name. Oh, okay. But I mean, I'm not trying. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to imply anything, but I just had no idea what to do.
Well, yeah. So he was probably a little stage fright along with
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey, he just hits the baseball. He's not supposed to think about that. What he's supposed to say.
Exactly. You hit me. That's the point I'm trying to make. And then one time, same thing when Pete Rose was playing for the Phillies. Pete was exactly the same way. He was great with the press. He would do anything for you. And we had me and Dave Wojnacki, who worked for WISL too. He had the afternoon shift at one time. Me and Dave were at the press dinner, and we had Pete Rose.
That's pretty insane. He's definitely one of the greatest baseball players of all time. Not even
ever.
Yeah.
I was starstruck. I was starstruck, and he's just a little guy.
Yeah,
he's just a little guy.
Yep.
And there were people talking in the hallway, and Pete said, "Hey, guys, keep it down. We're trying to do something here. We're taping here." And he He was so personable. You think that he was your friend for 30 years. He put his arm around you. How you doing, guys, with the press? That's how he was. So I'm trying to make a point about Pete Rose. What you see on TV is how he is
in real. Camera. Yeah.
I mean, and we were little guys. We weren't the guys. We weren't KYW, you know. We weren't the big guys. We weren't Philadelphia, you know. We were Shamokin. You know?
Good old Shamokin.
Hey, I got to tell you a quick story too.
Sure.
I'm on a roll. Now,
Keep going.
This is nothing to do with WISL. This is Shamokin. I'm going to tell you two stories. I'm on the air one night, and there was a commercial with Acme, and the commercial showed people at the register, and they're checking out. And say the bill is $100 or $50, and a guy would pop up and say, "Hi, we call it an order. When you go for your order, your order is on the house, compliments of Acme Supermarkets." And the people say, "Oh my God, thank you so much, thank you so much." Well, I'm on the air, and I'm playing a song with a real long intro. And by the intro, I mean is it's all music, and then the singer is going to start the song. So I am talking an intro, and I want to smack it. I want to, as soon as I'm finished talking.
You want the vocals to start, yeah.
The vocals going to start. And, when you're on the air for 20, 30 years, you get to be, I'm just not ringing my own bell, but you get to be a real pro, and I wanted to smack this really good. So I'm talking, it might have been 15, 20-second intro, and I'm saying, again, I'm not ringing my own bell, but it came out perfect, and I was a perfectionist on the air. I never wanted to have any dead air, and dead air is when you hear nothing.
Yep.
And if I'd have 1 second of dead air on my shift, I'd be kicking my behind all the way home. After my shift, that's how I was. I always was a perfectionist. But anyway, I'm doing the intro, and I'm telling the story on the air, and I'm saying, boy, every time I go to the Acme, I'm buying all this stuff. I'm loading up my cart. I'm going every night. I'm getting to the register, and I'm waiting for this guy to pop up and say, "Hey, your order is free," and then nobody's done it yet. I says, "I'm broke. I have no money." And then I said, "Anybody want a good deal on a ham?" And boy, I smacked it perfect.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh boy, yeah, and it was a good joke, I thought it was kind of funny. The phone rings. Now, at 5:00, the office people leave. So I'm by myself. I have the whole station to myself. The door is locked. And the phone actually can't ring in the control room in case I have, I keep the mic, and the mic is open. You don't want a phone ring. So there's little lights that blink. We had 3 lines, little lights that blink above you. So the phone rings. I pick it up, and the guy says, "Hey, is this Bernie Flynn?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "I just want to tell you, Bernie, I'm shaving, and I'm listening to you. And when you said that anybody want to buy a ham," he says, "I laughed so darn much." He didn't say darn. He said, "I cut myself. I actually cut myself shaving all that so much. I just want to tell you, I really enjoyed that joke." And I said, "You know what, buddy?" I says, "Every time you key your mic here at the station," I says, "I'm by myself in this control room." I says, "You never know who's listening. You never know if it's 1 person, 10 people, 100,000 people, 10,000 people, because, you never know. I'm hoping there's a lot of people listening." I said, "I just want to thank you so much. You made my night." And he says, "Well, I'm glad I did that."
Yeah.
And goodbye. So I just try to make a point that.
If I can interject, I used to work at WQSU, and I had a similar story where I was playing like my band's music real quick, and a trucker called in that was randomly driving on 80, and he was like, "What is this crazy music? This is great. Who is this? This is making my night. What radio station is this? I'm from like Arizona." And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whatever. And it was awesome to know that, somebody's actually listening to you. Cause you try to get all the cues right and you try to make it sound clean. And I get all of that. Like I said, I worked at I volunteered at WQSU for a while, and then I did work at WKOK for a little bit. So I'm familiar with the the dead air thing, and being concise and all that. And I kicking myself if you let a couple of seconds go by or you don't hit you fat finger the cue or something. I used to get like that too. But yeah, I actually got a couple letters from prisoners saying that they were listening to my music at the Cole Township Penitentiary. Very strange, but still just another, that people are listening. Even, that was 5-10 years ago. So.
Yeah. Well, another thing about WISL, when we had that bad hurricane, I think it was Agnes, we stayed on the air all night. We can do that if it's like a national emergency, if it's a local emergency, because of the flooding. The flooding was so bad. Lancaster's Twitch was flooded. The access to Shamokin coming down the hill at Lanshaw. I know I didn't make it home. My car stalled out. A milkman actually took me home. I think.
Do you mean down by where Scott's? Well, I guess where Wise is now, like down there by, or you said Ramshaw, right?
Yeah, where Palmer's Diner is.
Yeah, like down. Okay, down at that base there. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that was all flooded out. Well, anyway, I stayed on the air. We did such a public service that night. The phones were ringing off the hook. The state cops called us and let us know, where it was flooded and how bad it was. We really, really did a public service that night. And I felt so good about it that I could help, the station could help the public know where to go and what not to go and alternate routes. And I mean, it was just terrible. It really, really was.
I mean, I really feel like the reason that I do this is for that same exact reason. I had somebody the Hobart News thing to be said. I had somebody message me when I first started doing it, and I was like, does anybody really care that I'm reporting where these fires are or anything like that? And then somebody messaged me and was like, listen, my senile grandmother was 3 houses away from that fire and she did not get out. And the firefighters didn't know that she was in there, and they got to the scene and got her out. And her house didn't burn down, thankfully. But that's why I do this kind of stuff, and why I post the things that I do is just it's important if a road is closed or there's a flood or there's an accident or there's a fire that people need to avoid that area so that the first responders can get there and do their job. And I just think that that's an important, and we don't have that in Shamokin anymore. We don't have live updates. So I just started listening to the scanner and just posting, and that's basically where it started. So, and then you start feeling that you feel like you owe it to do that for people, to let them know what's going on and that you owe that to them. And, you feel like that's your duty. And that's basically where I'm at. Even though Hobart News is a joke and I'm wearing a pirate hat and the cover photo and I'm riding a Knoebels roller coaster and the pictures, you know what I mean? It is really serious behind it with, feeling like a duty to let people know what's going on.
One thing I think is important that we're talking about WISL. I mean, enough about my experiences. I just want to make a point that in the 70s, I mean, I'm thinking about, we had one part-timer, his name was Jack Jambor. He was from Milwaukee. He worked a couple of years part-time on, I think he worked Saturday afternoon. His show was named the Jack Jambor Hit Spree 73. But back in the 70s, WISL had a very, now I want to phrase it right, was such a huge influence in the Shamokin, Mount Carmel, Sunbury market. I mean, I had a DJ tell me, now I'm 77 years old, and I don't have a thing written down. I have no cheat sheet. Rich Lewis. Rich Lewis is his name. You know, I have to tell you, being in the business that long, and I'm not kidding you, I dream about WISL every other night. I miss the business so bad. I mean, it was part of my life. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to tell you, when I was a kid, there were no transistor radios when I was a kid growing up in the 50s. I used to take the radio and, plug it in and put it under my pillow and listen to the radio every night going to sleep. I always wanted to be a radio announcer. The point I'm trying to make is we were such a huge influence in the radio market, WISL. Even when we were just AM, but when we became FM, AM, FM, we were such an influence in the market. Milton, WISL in Shamokin, HLM in Bloomsburg. I had Rich Lewis worked for WISL. He was a great DJ. Yes, he had a really good big ego. He went to HLM and he told me, I'm going to take your audience away from you, Bernie. He told me. That's how much of an audience we had in the 70s. I mean, people called us all the time and told us. One guy told me I did an hour of Elvis one night. This is before we went stereo. And he said, God, why don't you guys go FM stereo? And I said, we will. We're talking about it. But we were so big in our market, people don't realize the influence we had on the radio audience in the 70s. I'm not just talking about my shift. I mean, Tom Kutza had the morning mayor. He had so many listeners. I mean, people don't realize just that we're just a little AM FM station in the coal region, 1,000-watt station. I mean, sure, QKX, sure, WKOK had an influence, but we did too. I mean, we never bought we never subscribed to the, help me out here, Anthony. Help me out here.
What subscribe?
The rating.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say. I was just gonna say I root for the little guy. That was basically what the point that I was trying to get. I mean, I'm the you know what I mean, the little guy in all of this too. I'm taking on all the news around here. So you know what I mean. So yeah, where you're not and you don't have the big sponsorships and you don't have, you know what I mean. I run on basically people are thankful enough to donate directly to me, and that's the only way that I can operate and do this kind of stuff. I'm not owned by anyone. I'm not owned by anyone at all, except for myself, I guess.
Well, back in the 70s, this will coincide with what I'm saying. I got into sales because I worked, I worked all night, 6 to midnight. I was free during the day. I thought I'd try part-time sales, and I did. And I walk into a sponsor and I say who I was, and they say, "Oh my God, I listened to you when I was a kid on the radio." And I became very successful in sales because of that. And I happened to call a national agency, and being the small station that we are in the small market we are, we never really had a chance to with the big agencies. And here I got Coors Beer Account, which is unheard of. Hood, Light, and Geist was the agency, one of the biggest agencies in the country. I called them and I sent them a really nice presentation, and we happened to have. This is when I was with Spy 95, and but don't forget that, and we were bought by WISL. We had really nice, beautiful presentation kit, and here I got the account, and it was coincided with WISL and Spy 95, and here I got the Coors account because of our ratings. That's the point. That's where I'm going. Okay, in the small market we were in, so we were a factor, and that's the point I'm trying to make. WISL for a little 1,000 water did pretty darn good back in the day, and they're gone. Another point I want to make too. Back then there were 8,000 AM stations in the country, and Anthony, I forgot to do it. I didn't know we were going to do this today. I meant to get on the internet to check on how many AM stations there are today.
I can actually, I can do that. I'm on right now. Let me, AM radio station. Let me see how many there are left. I could actually look that up for you.
Yeah, and you know, years ago, FM stations, and I'm talking about the 50s and maybe early 60s, FM stations were just a write-off. They played concert music. Nobody listened to FM. AM stations were big. You know, all the stations in Philadelphia, you know, WFIL in Philadelphia, you know, all the big AM stations, FM stations were just a write-off. And then suddenly, let's try playing some rock. And look what happened.
Yeah.
All the FM stations suddenly were the thing. FM stereo and the poor AM stations were on the sidelines. And then the AM stations turned into religious, talk, sports, weather, and many of them closed down. Look at WISL's gone, Mount Carmel's gone, HLN's still alive. I don't know. Is MLP still around?
I'm not sure. I'm looking at it here now. So you said there was 8,000, right? So as of 2015, it's 4,600. So almost half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lost half of them. Yeah.
There's about it's 13,000 radio stations, and it looks like about 7,000 and change are or 12,000, 7,000 and change are FM, and about 4,600 somewhere around it. There's different reports, but yeah, in 2013 it was like 4,900. Now it's down to about 4,600. So that's about where it's at now.
Yeah, and it's a shame, you know. They're a dying breed. They really are. You know, everybody listens to FM, but anyway, poor WISL. You know, I still have a bumper sticker staring me, a green bumper sticker staring me in the face right here.
Yeah.
You know, from WISL, and thanks to my buddy Joe Michelanis from he lives I think he lives in Sunbury now, but he's a dear old friend. He used to come up to the radio station and visit me all the time. He sent that through the mail to me, but he's a dear old him and Chuck Kamas, who's another dear old WISL buddy of mine. They used to come up all the time and visit me. And any radio station, there's nowhere to go to learn the business now. To sit behind the board, to learn the board, to learn the business. There's nowhere to go. Really, there's just nowhere to go, and it's a shame, like I said, to learn the business from the ground up. And WISL was such a great stepping stone to do an airship for a year or two. Then they would go, say, to KOK, which was a bigger station, 10,000 watts, and then maybe move to a bigger market, then move to Philadelphia or, Harrisburg, whatever. And that's what they did. But today there's no more WISL left, to learn the business. And I think it's a shame.